No, I call him. Kraft screwed up. I'll give you your money in exchange for some information. Be a hero. Oh, sorry, man. Ooh.
The movie opens by showing Luke, a man who has just been appointed sheriff in his hometown. He returns after 10 years away from the place due to an accident that claimed both his parents and made him lose his younger sister. Luke's first day of work, he was welcomed by his colleague named Sheriff Ridd, and his uncle named Barnes also presented a goldfish as a congratulation. But on his first day, he was immediately confronted with the case of the death of a man named Byron, who was found dead in a car with a gunshot wound to his head, and his body was first discovered by two small children playing around the location. Another policeman named John suspected the death was a suicide because at the scene of the crime, a drink bottle and a photo of a beautiful woman were found, and he assumed Byron was desperate to end his life after a breakup. When Luke asked for the photo, John showed a cynical attitude, and after staring at the photo, he felt a familiar feeling. But when asked if he knew her, Luke shook his head.
You know it? No.
After returning from the crime scene, Luke stopped by his uncle's house. They talked lightly about Luke's past and life in Los Angeles. When Luke saw a photo of him with his sister, old memories had surfaced, but Barnes asked about his work so that it distracted Luke from the memories. The next day, Luke and John went to Eduardo, a drug dealer they knew for a long time. They wanted to ask for information regarding an overdose case that caused someone's death, but Eduardo suddenly panicked, thinking they were coming to arrest him. He tried to escape from the window of the room and opened fire to hold Luke, who took refuge behind the wall while trying to calm him down. Luke gets a wound on his shoulder, and soon John approaches him, who is immediately angry with him for making a mess, even though he has only been the sheriff in the town for a few days. Luke goes to the hospital to treat his wound, and it turns out that the doctor who treats him is Gomez, his first love, as well as the lover he used to leave without explanation. At first, Gomez was friendly but turned cold when Luke apologized. She refused to talk about the past in that place, which made Luke realize that her wound had not healed. Then Luke asked if he could contact her, and Gomez just said she would think about it. That night, Luke went home and was relieved to receive a goodnight message from Gomez, but dreams of his missing sister's childhood in Byron's case still haunted him. The next day at the office, Luke went through Byron's belongings and found a receipt. Then Sheriff Ridd showed up with Byron's unlocked cell phone, and Luke immediately asked for the phone to check it out. He found several photos of the same woman, including one where she was lying lifeless on the sand, and he also found a message history with a mysterious number that Byron often interacted with. Then Sheriff Ridd recorded the number for further investigation. Following the instructions of the previous receipt, Luke went to a cafe and spoke to a waitress named Honesty. And after asking a few questions, she admitted that Byron and his girlfriend had been there several times, but strangely, their bills were always paid by a man named Morris, one of the people known to never pay for others. After leaving there and not getting any definite clues, Luke proceeded to the forensic laboratory, and he was given the autopsy results of Byron's body, which showed Byron did commit suicide. But Luke doubted everything because he felt there were several irregularities starting from the point of the crime scene where Byron was first found. His suspicions grew stronger when he checked the victim's car again and found a bag of money neatly hidden under the trunk floor. Back at the office, Luke asked his colleagues about the progress of Byron's case, and John said the victim worked as a courier for a man named Morris, while Sheriff Ridd said the female corpse in the photo was known by the pseudonym Dawn, and Byron's only last contact before dying was Morris. Then afterward, Luke ordered John to immediately capture Morris alive. In the evening, while at home, a message came into Byron's cell phone, and Luke immediately replied to the message pretending to be Byron. When the sender of the message asked for the money, Luke immediately offered a meeting and promised to bring the money. After that, Luke immediately called John to say that their case had progressed. The next day, Luke told John to take Morris to the police station, and John warned Luke not to put too much pressure on him. In the interrogation room, Luke immediately mentioned the $5 million and also told him that Byron was dead. Hearing that, Morris was shocked and admitted that he only hired him to deliver packages to anonymous clients, and he said he really needed the money because his family was in danger. Then Luke asked for a photo of the woman on Byron's cell phone, but Morris claimed to only know she was Byron's girlfriend and did not know her whereabouts. And when shown a photo of the woman's corpse, Morris was silent and asked for a lawyer. In the end, Luke became more aggressive in forcing Morris to say who the real owner of the money was, because it was probably the person who did it.
Who was the money for? Tell me who the girl is!
Sheriff Ridd and John, who watched from behind the glass, did not agree with Luke's attitude, and John finally entered to calm the atmosphere. Cleverly, John began to pressure Morris in the room, and he scared him, saying that the news of Morris as an accomplice to murder could spread quickly if he did not want to testify. Afraid of his good name being tainted, Morris finally mentioned one name, Jack Danes, and he swore that he was only an intermediary to hire Byron as a courier for Danes. Then Luke told him to contact Danes, but Morris refused for fear of being hunted down by them. Fortunately, before Luke forced further, he got a phone call and left the room. The call came from Gomez, who asked him to go to the women's shelter. There, Luke met Laura, a victim of violence from her boyfriend, but when persuaded to make a report, Laura withdrew for fear of being beaten again.
Laura, please.
On his way home, Luke realized a car was following him, and knowing the danger, he cut the road, waiting in the alley while pulling out his gun. But before he could be sure, the car suddenly left because it was pressed by another driver. Shortly after, Luke got a message on Byron's cell phone with the address of the next delivery. Luke went to the location and found 5 men waiting for him, while they were surprised that it was not Byron who came. Then one of the men asked about the money that was previously on Byron, and Luke asked for information in exchange, but the man refused and then forced Luke to immediately hand over the money. Because of pressure, Luke finally forcibly threw the money bag to them, but after inspection it turned out that the contents were only newsprint, and afterwards an argument ensued. After defeating them at the office, he met Barnes, who claimed to know of his whereabouts from radio reports about the shooting, and Luke said that he was fine and had even managed to incapacitate 2 or 3 people. Then John appeared and cynically suggested that the FBI intervene, but Luke, upon hearing this, immediately refused because he felt he could handle everything himself. John then warned that this case was related to Morris and that it was not good, and Luke asked why it was not good. John said that Sheriff Pikes, the previous sheriff, had disappeared after handling the same case alone and getting too deeply involved. However, Luke didn't listen to John's words and remained convinced that everything pointed to Morris in the photo of the woman's body in Byron's car earlier. Meanwhile, Barnes tried to advise Luke, reminding him of his past and asking him to stop before he destroyed himself, but Luke insisted on solving the case. Shortly thereafter, Luke received a call from Danes, who was angry because Luke had killed his men and taken his money. He demanded that the money be returned by tomorrow morning, but Luke gave him a condition which Danes rejected, laughing at him and saying that he never negotiated with lowly sheriffs. He then warned Luke to obey his orders or he would come and take the money himself. After that, Danes went to a bar to meet Kraft, a man who owed him money. He instructed Kraft to pick up the package and kill Luke and asked him to bring Luke's head to him. In return, his debt would be considered paid off, and he would also receive an additional payment of $50,000.
I'd throw in an extra $50K.
Deal.
Meanwhile, Sheriff Ridd received a phone call, after which he and John went to a location, dug up the ground, and found the body of a woman.
Yeah, I think we found our girl.
Elsewhere, Luke was stopped by 2 cars and taken to meet Fernando, the cartel leader who also had business ties with Morris. Fernando then explained that Morris had betrayed him by working with Danes and Byron to steal his money, then buying drugs from him himself. It turned out that Byron was also greedy and stole the money to run away with Dawn, one of his mistresses. After the plan was carried out and exposed, Fernando killed Dawn. Then Fernando asked Luke to return the money and he would let Luke live. Luke then asked what would happen if he refused, and Fernando just laughed and said that everyone has a choice. He then ordered his men to release Luke.
We all have choices, Sheriff.
After that, Luke received shocking news from John, who said they had found the body of Sarah, Luke's missing sister, buried shallowly, and the autopsy results showed that she had died of suffocation. When he saw his sister's body, Luke was devastated, and it turned out that Sarah was the girl they had been looking for, living under the alias Dawn. The next day, Luke went to the location where Sarah's body was found, but he didn't find any clues there except for a suspicious cigar butt. Sometime later, Luke received a message from Barnes telling him to come, but it turned out to be a trap. Kraft and his men took Barnes hostage and forced Luke to hand over the money at the crime scene to him. Luke pretended to comply, then signaled Barnes and fought back, and eventually a shootout ensued.
No. Get this turn, Kid!
Kraft and his men managed to escape from there. Worried about what might happen next, Luke asked his uncle to leave town for a while. Luke then went to Morris to ask about Kraft, and Morris said that he wasn't involved at the moment, but that he knew those people. Luke then forced him to call Danes and said he would hand over the money as long as Danes gave him the information.
No, I'd call him. Kraft screwed up. I'll give you your money in exchange for some information.
They then agreed to meet at a hotel, and as Luke was about to leave, Morris warned him that he had just signed his own death warrant, but Luke ignored him. Afterwards, Luke took the money from where he had hidden it, and when he arrived, he was shocked to find the place ransacked. He then took his dog to Barnes's house, where he found Sheriff Ridd also injured when Kraft kidnapped Gomez. After that, Danes called to remind Luke that he had to come to the hotel within an hour with the money or Gomez would die.
What the hell?
Luke then took his gun to the police station, and unexpectedly, John agreed to help with this revenge mission. At the same time, Fernando also headed to the hotel where they were meeting. Upon arriving there, Luke and John incapacitated the guards outside and then split up.
Oh, sorry, man. Ooh.
Luke managed to find Gomez after incapacitating all of Kraft's men, but afterwards they were attacked by Dane's right-hand man. Fortunately, they were saved by Fernando, who insisted that he only wanted to protect his money. Luke then asked how Fernando knew he was there, but before Fernando could answer, Dane suddenly appeared, took Gomez hostage, and demanded that Luke hand over the money immediately if he wanted Gomez to survive. While listening to this, Fernando shouted that the money belonged to him, not Dane's. Luke then took the bag containing the money and complied with Dane's demand to place the money on the stairs.
It's all him, okay?
Don't make me kill your girlfriend.
However, after handing over the money, Danes threw Gomez from the upper floor. Fortunately, she managed to hold on. Danes then tried to escape with the bag, but Fernando appeared and shot him dead.
Your money?
Meanwhile, Luke finally managed to save Gomez. When Fernando was about to leave with the money, Luke stopped him, which surprised Fernando because he felt he had no problem with Luke. Luke then said that Fernando had killed Sarah, his sister, whom Fernando knew as Dawn. Fernando was shocked and said he didn't know that, and he had killed Dawn only because of business. He never wanted Dawn dead, and he was only following orders. Afterwards, Luke asked who had given him the order, but before Fernando could answer, he was shot by Barnes, who appeared suddenly. He claimed to be following Luke to protect him, but when he lit his cigar, Luke finally realized that his uncle was the mastermind behind everything. Barnes then tried to divert attention by saying that Luke had successfully caught a major criminal and become a hero. So there was nothing to discuss, but Luke forced him to confess. Barnes finally admitted that Fernando was only a small part of a large network in Mexico, and he had intervened because he didn't believe Fernando was capable of controlling the situation. Luke then said there was still a way back, but Barnes didn't want to go to prison and ended up pointing his gun at Luke after throwing away Luke's gun.
This is my county. What's the saying? Greed is good.
What about Sarah's life?
Strung out and working for it. I can't do that.
Suddenly, John arrived and shot him until his weapon fell out, and Luke managed to retrieve his gun. But Barnes refused to give up and tried to fight them both.
Under arrest. You son of a bitch. Get at my back.
Sometime later, Luke visited Laura, a victim of domestic violence, and caught her boyfriend being abusive again. Luke then beat him up and ordered 2 sheriffs to arrest him.
What the hell are you doing? Call the police! Oh, I'm sorry.
He also gave Laura money to start a new life. The case was finally closed, and John was promoted to the new sheriff captain. Meanwhile, Luke packed his belongings, went to Sarah's grave to say goodbye, and left town with Gomez.